Now call to order this budget work session of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors. We'll start with an invocation by myself, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Miller. Please stand as you're able. All right. We're on to public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience for public comment. Is there anybody online, Mr. Dines? Okay, moving on from public comment, we'll go to the revenue scenarios.
So let me just open. I know at the last meeting we were asked to come back with some information about the way the rate plan is put together, and so Ms. Hahn did talk to Mr. Locks with Davenport, and the indication was when it was put together, whenever there was an annual increase, that increase was across the board. It was representative all of the fees, the debt, the other user fees, and so we've toyed with some things, and I think that what Ms. Hahn wants to do is kind of walk you through some scenarios that maybe you could address. We have made some modifications to the expenditure side, and we can go through those as well. But I think that if I'm understanding correctly, there's some slight degree of change to a couple line items. I believe, Mr. Morris, since you're online, I think Ms. Hahn was going to forward you her presentation, and then what she has indicated that the information that's here is not much different from what you got at the last meeting. So if you still have that information, the spreadsheets, you can follow along, I guess, and we can note whatever change is different.
Okay, yeah, I have those, and her thing just came through.
Okay, so the first revenue scenario is still the same as last week with the 10% across the board. At the end of the meeting last week, Mr. Parker indicated that he was concerned about the debt user fees and increasing those 10% as well. And so the second revenue sheet that you have tonight is 10% on the usage, but 3% on the debt fees. You will see the bottom line is that we're $156,835 short with our expenditures. Just for informational, at a 10% increase, the debt user fee would increase the bi-monthly bill by $10.64. And 3%, it would increase the bill bi-monthly bill by $3.19. So a 10% increase on the debt fees was only $7 more, so $3.50 more than at 3%. Because those are flat fees.
You're doing the total debt fee, then.
So,
because there's two different debt fees.
There's two different debt fees, and that's the total of both of those debt fees.
Okay. So then the only way to make this work is to do 10% across the board.
We did play around a little bit with a lower debt. We did play around with a lower debt service fee increase, but then a
7.5% debt user fee, you would kind of break even with that and I did not run that scenario, so probably not. so late this afternoon, and that's one of the big changes that's in your expenditure side of the house, is the consent order. We're given the ability to pay that over a 2-year period, and so I have added the DEQ consent order into this budget. So when I do that, and I will tell you that there was a slight error in the debt, and those are the two changes on the spreadsheet. The debt service was recorded a little higher last week because the $85,038 had not been backed out of it. And then we have to add in interest for the $15 million line of credit that we've submitted a reimbursement request for $1.1 million. And that amount is like a little over 28,000. So that's why that number changed. But with that number changing, it lowered it. And then when you put the consent order, it was like $1,824 difference. And I added that to the fund balance, reserve for fund balance. I also, when I talked to Mr. Laux from Davenport, he stated that why we first started reserving money for the fund balance was because of the refunding that was done, I believe, in 2019. Because for lenders, it you're presenting that you're trying to fiscally manage the money and set money aside to build that fund balance for future, if you need to incur future debt. And he said he would not remove that from the budget. And so those are the two changes. I wanted to go over, we talked some last week, but of course, I'm sorry that we can't have it up here on the screen. But the water wastewater operations contract, the base amount is $2,082,529. We added extra $10,000 to the water side and $40,000 for wastewater for out of scope situations that may arise. If you remember in their contract, if they get an emergency after normal business hours, the hourly rates will apply. We hope we don't have to use it and that can go towards the fund balance, but we wanted to reserve that in the budget just in case. We've had an increased cost for well repairs and replacements. You know, the last one that we did one earlier this year for $85,000, but this last one was $114,000. So that's much more than it has been in the past. We added costs for contract on-call repairs to lines, the contract that we have with Bay Country and the secondary that we have with KL Langford. That has never been captured in the budget, so we added some funds there to cover that. The maintenance contracts have increased costs, like Southern Corrosion for the water tank maintenance, and that is an estimate based on, I believe it's a 5.4 CPI for that type of service. That's what it is. Ms. Pitts, our procurement manager, checked for me at the time I was working on the budget. So that was what was included. And increased electric cost. Also in front of you at your desk, you have a expenditure summary for both water and wastewater. This is up through today, and it includes anything that we've processed but hasn't flipped over yet, and as well as any monies that are encumbered. I've highlighted specific line items that have already overrun or will overrun by the end of the fiscal year. Your electric costs, those costs are only through April bills, so we still have May and June bills that will hit those two lines. The bottom line on water is we have 7.27% of the budget remaining, and on the wastewater side, 9.8. 7.27. It's on page 2 of the handout that you have. But so you'll see the lines that are highlighted are the lines that I've shown increases in the budget for fiscal year 24. And I'll pause there to see if anyone has any questions.
I just need a confirmation from the consent order. It was 100, the total was 108,000. I forget the last three numbers. Okay, I remember it was 8 something. I just didn't remember.
Yes, and the total for, if you look at line 5899 miscellaneous, that's where we charge any late fees or any penalties to. And you'll see 54,431. That's one half of that consent order. Because we'll have to make 4 payments in fiscal year 24 and 4 payments in fiscal year 25.
So looking at these two, and this is kind of comes where some of the questions, if I compare these. So like, this is just a simple comparison. So like, we have office supplies where we've budgeted $1,500 for each, but we haven't used remotely that much in the last 2 years.
And I mean, that one can be lowered, but it's,
Yeah, I know it's not a lot, but I'm wondering if I went through line by line, obviously some things we're going to have gone way over, and other things
and
I think.
two,
we're
I
gonna be
will tell you
under.
that a lot of departments will wait until the end of the year and restock their office supplies. When they know they've got the money left, they restock, and then they'll carry them through the next year. Because I believe we did actually lower that line from last year, I believe.
You
didn't
did.
we?
It was 5,000 last year, and you brought it down to 1,500.
Mhm. And that because previously we had to provide like office supplies for printers, cartridges, paper for some of the things that we were handling at the treatment plants. And since that is no longer needed, then we were able to lower that line. But usually they'll take stock before at the end of the fiscal year and place an order for supplies and spend the money towards the end of the fiscal year. And as far as advertising, I believe that like for the public hearing for the county, the bills just came in and they were close to between $4,000 and $5,000. And we haven't spent any money in advertising this year because we haven't advertised, and we have to advertise twice. And I know that was Ms. Kupka's question last week, was about advertising.
So are there any questions?
I got a question. Hold on. There's like vehicle insurance. How many? We got rid of most of our vehicles, right?
We got rid of a large number of them, but we did, we ended up keeping a few of them. We have 2 vacant, I believe, are they still vacant? Maintenance positions that there's trucks for them. And then some of our other trucks that we recently purchased because of, excuse me, the aftermath of COVID and inflation, the rental rates on those trucks are very large.
But-
So we turned in a lot of the vehicles that we were paying less for. So
Okay.
it should be a decrease in there. That's line 5410,
Yes.
46,000 decrease.
Okay. I was just looking at things that possibly could be cut out.
And when we were looking at the Bowdoin or doing the contract for the wastewater and water operations, a couple of the trucks were actually included, but we hadn't taken into consideration the 2 new positions.
The engineering and architectural services, is that above what Travis supplies and Bryce?
So that is when they have to incur outside engineering. We actually lowered that cost based on advice from Travis Kusenberry.
All right.
And if you look at the expenditure side, we do have money left in this year that Bryce has informed me that he has some projects that we're going to need outside engineering, and he's supposed to be working on those and getting that to us and going ahead and encumbering the funds.
And those engineering services are normally related to the water,
Like-
to the water side, the TRC. And then we also utilize TRC for the wastewater side. Now, a lot of that engineering may be related in the sense it's going to be in that, it'll be factored into the grant, correct?
So
For
those,
like RK and K and things like that, the
for the-
heavier projects.
the Perkins decommissioning, that's being charged against the $16 million wastewater grant. The engineering services for Fairview Beach well, for Arnold's Corner, for the Circle to Courthouse interconnection. There's a couple of other interconnections, and TRC is working on all of those, but those are being charged against the $5,000
$5
grant.
million grant.
$5 million.
And then Wiley Wilson is also one that we utilize on wastewater related activities.
Any other questions?
I do just have one more. In this bit, I wasn't here last week. So the 10%, is that basically 10 cents is?
It's 10. So the calculations are you take 10% of what the rate is
Mhm.
and mark it up by 10%.
So your average bill is going to go up like $30, I think.
Okay. So I was asking based on our rate plan, how does
So
it
that
compare?
the 10 that you're talking about, that is the debt fee.
Okay.
And
I'm just asking in comparison of our original rate plan. Is
So
it higher than
it's,
what?
yes. So
because we're
gonna go
going 7%
We were going to go
higher.
4%. I think it was 4%. this year.
3% this year.
Got 3% this year, so it's 7% high. But we knew one way or the other whether we signed on in Bowdoin or we hired all the people we needed to do, it was going to go up. It was going to go up. You're talking about probably 2% difference. If we'd have done it ourselves, you'd be probably looking at an 8%.
8%. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Bowdoin, it's 10%. So that really, it's just there's a lot of stuff that's gotten very expensive. We're paying a lot more for electric, almost $100,000 more for debt service. There's just a whole bunch. There's just a whole bunch of things that have gotten a lot. The wells, they're much more expensive. We got almost $60,000 extra budgeted to replace wells than we would have last year. Maybe almost closer to 70 maybe in wells. So there's just a lot of stuff that added up to a bunch of extra money.
Yes, because on the next slide, I talked about some of the budgetary challenges that we've had, and that the very first one is budget expenditures are increasing due to inflation, driving the cost of materials up, and contracts have built in CPI increases. I know that I believe both of our on-call contracts, they have the ability to increase by CPI as the Southern Corrosion. We have Carter Machinery that does the generator PMs throughout the year. That increases every year.
Yeah. So just to keep up with CPI this year, we would have had to make at least a 5.4% increase in all the rates just to match CPI. If we were keeping up just basically with inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a little bit above inflation, but
And Mr. Laux from Davenport had come and talked previously when we were contemplating the water operations contract. And that's what he estimated. And I was like, I'm not sure, but yes, but when you start plugging in the numbers, and then of course debt payments, they increased, and that includes, because last year it was $1,379,536, increased to $1,405,230, and I do have that in here. The amount of interest that we have to pay on the $15 million line of credit in fiscal year 24 will be $28,782.41.
And that's because we finally tapped into that money,
That's
correct?
correct.
Yes. So on the 3% increase, if we're looking at like their 3% increase versus the 10% now, a big bulk of that difference is our electric utility service is wildly more expensive. That's $80,000, almost more this year, just based on what we're paying. We have almost 70,000 more for wells, assuming we only have to replace 2, right? It gets worse if there's more than 2. But it's budgeted for 2 and they're almost 70,000. And then the debt payments are 85,000. So you're looking at more than half of the increase, the increased costs are just from those 3 items going up quite stiffly, unfortunately.
And, and sadly, I put in here that the increased costs are going to require increased rate. And we do still have the need to build that fund balance for future debt needs to show the authority is fiscally responsible. And of course, the DEQ consent order is another challenge because we need to get that paid.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything that could be reduced, but there doesn't seem to be
We
much.
tried last week.
Yeah.
We asked about a lot of different line
We went
items.
line by line and
It is what it
they
is.
had answers for everything.
The unfortunate reality is everything's wildly more expensive.
Yeah, especially in this industry.
Didn't want to go ahead and advertise without at least more
Well, shoot, we-
people here, so.
Like $274,000 for a truck.
And that's going to be out of the $15 million line of credit.
Yeah.
We still have about $7 million left on the AMI project that I'll request reimbursement in fiscal year 24. And then that will increase the interest on that.
Is it million or 700,000?
700,000, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
You just said
I've had
million.
too many
I was-
numbers going on.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I was about to
700,000.
have a heart attack when
No, the contract was
7
1
million.
point,
I was
The
like-
last,
I was
the
like,
water truck was 200 million, so.
it was
it was like a 1 point something million.
1.8 for the contract.
That's what I
thereabouts.
thought I remembered, but then
Yeah.
it was like $7 million.
And the 1.1 that we did request reimbursement was the AMI, and it was also the, was it the back truck, Ditch Witch, that we purchased earlier for like 54,000?
Now, couldn't there be savings when the meters are all installed and we do not have to use some of those employees to do the meter reading?
Yes, I mean, but
But you don't have somebody that's just doing meter reading.
Okay.
I mean,
I was
what
just trying-
happens
Yeah.
is those guys get pulled for 2 to 3 weeks at a
Our big
stretch.
savings will be if once the system gets running and it works right, Miss Hahn's group can take over the billing again.
That's
we can
what
get
I
a
was
muni
gonna
billing
ask,
because that's
is-
Yes.
a
The treasurer is
And we-
wanting that
$280,000 or
badly.
something like that.
Yeah, that's what
You know,
my
so
understanding.
that's a big chunk of change. And then obviously the other big things is we can get Perkins Corner and Oakland Park offline. The amount of power those two things suck up is stunning, right? So you're talking many tens of thousands of dollars of
Well, the chemicals.
plus not the chemicals and everything else. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in savings per plant if they're gone.
Well, most localities don't have 5 plants, so that does help to have much less in
That's what-
cost savings.
Yeah. So once they come offline,
down the road, yes.
yeah, once they
Yes.
come offline down the road, that'll reduce the impacts.
And hopefully we talked about too, about doing an energy audit to see if there are any savings that we can have in electric. So hopefully that this year we'll stay within budget and not overrun.
Yeah,
and-
I think
then
in Bowdoin's
anything-
doing that, right? They're setting up an energy audit.
Yeah, they're going to start to work on that. The other thing that you get with the AMI project is you'll be able to identify where there would be leaks and where customers are getting an inefficient service, if you will, that no one knows about until they go in and they start looking at water bills. They'll be able to more efficiently look at that, and then they can make those changes. And so, I think the hope is that everybody will be happy.
Yeah, because right now, my understanding with the AMI project and the leaks, that the leak detection of the AMI meters is so sensitive. And where right now, if you have a small leak, the meter's probably not picking it up and there's water that's being lost. And, down in the lines instead of, being used for what it, needs to be. So it'll benefit, the customer to know that they've got a leak, but if they choose not to fix it, then it benefits the service authority because the bill will be higher.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple points, items. With the AMI, this is going to free up the people that are doing meter readers to get back on doing maintenance and repairs. And instead of being reactive, we'll be proactive. And it's always cheaper to be proactive than reactive. So we can hopefully get ahead of these problems before they happen, and it costs us extra money. I want to thank Miss Hahn and her staff and everybody. I think these numbers are very well laid out, and I think they did cut where they could and everything else. But the short version is inflation is just hitting everybody all around. Heck, I was looking the other day. The pickup truck I bought 17 months ago is now $31,000 more. Same exact truck went up $31,000 in 17 months. So that's it. Thank you.
So I guess are there any questions or whatnot, or do we want to kind of get the advertising going then for the rates? Because I don't know that we can do anything but I've looked over these at the last meeting and over the weekend, and I don't know that we could sit and argue about pennies, but I don't think it's going to make I think you could squeeze maybe $10,000 or something out of the budget, but it's not going to make a big impact, I don't think, in the grand scheme of things.
Yes. And Ms. Fish, did you talk with, were you able to get freelance? Okay. So she's going to check with freelance in the morning to see if we can expedite the advertisement. I will get the advertisement done and ready for her first thing in the morning. But we do have to advertise twice. And
Your goal, you're trying to see if we can expedite it and get it in on the 20th.
what? No, we cannot get in on the 20th because we'd have to. I don't know how long we have to wait after the advertisement. So if, and I wish Kelly were here.
I think Kelly indicated that for us, we don't have to wait like the Board of Supervisors do. I think as soon as it's hit the 2-week mark, we're allowed to.
So 2 weeks from today, we could have
I
public
think,
hearing, or after it's advertised.
I think 2 weeks. 2 weeks after, 2 weeks from the day it goes up.
So and that was what I was looking at was the 10th and the 17th. So you couldn't make the 20th because it wouldn't be 2 full weeks after the advertising. So you would probably, well, I don't know what you would probably want to do. So anytime after, well, the week of the 26th.
So, Mr. Chair, we could just, at this point, just direct staff to advertise at the soonest opportunity, because we'll meet again on the 20th. So we could set.
We have to have the date in our
The
advertisement.
date needs to be in the advertisement. So do we just want to pick a date the last week of June before June
If we can get
30th?
it in on the 10th, then yeah, any day the week of the 26th.
Do you just want to do like like a Tuesday? Like, so it's kind of, or is that somebody else got that Tuesday? Because the 20th.
I forgot to bring my boardroom.
It's not in there, are they? Yeah,
No.
they are. They're in there on the 27th. Yeah.
That's after the third Tuesday.
Maybe do the Wednesday.
We
Wednesday.
could do the Wednesday the 28th.
We could have it at the sheriff's office, could we not? I
Mhm.
mean, he's
we
always
could.
extended that to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And the room is certainly bigger than this one for
Mhm.
public comment if we
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, I would do that. Pick the Wednesday at
Wednesday,
the
the
sheriff's office.
28th.
I'm sorry, what are we doing on the 28th?
So we have to advertise for the rates and they have to be out for 2 weeks, but we also have to put the date of the
Public hearing.
public hearing
In the ad.
in the ad. So
Okay.
You can use the boardroom on.
So we're going with the 10% and
yeah, I don't think.
do we need to vote on that?
So just for the sake of clarity in the minutes, I will move to direct staff to advertise a public hearing at the date and time mentioned using the budget presented here this evening.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Let's have staff advertise for June 28th in the boardroom at 5:30 p.m. and then the 10% rate. And I think all we need is a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn to June 20th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Anybody got discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.
Good night.